Test, test. Hey, YouTube. Coming at you live from southern Indiana. Once again, Hey, Daryl, could I get a sound check, please, sir? Hey, Nisi. Welcome to the stream, you guys. Get a sound check. Sound is great. Thank you, Nisi. Once again, I'm pretty much bereft of a topic. Hey, Terry's Tropical Tanks, thanks. The one thing that what little video watching I've done this week showed me is that we as Fish Fam members, the community that is on YouTube, that views all of the presenters, all of the people that put out content, that we as fish keepers need to brush up on our skills when we're asking questions of the people that are putting out content or running live streams. You can make it really difficult for someone to give you a cogent answer if you don't put enough parameters in your question. And by the same token, if you make the entire question solid parameters, then you're going to bore your presenter to death. But when we ask questions about our own particular tanks, we know all this stuff in our head, most of us that are asking. We know pretty much what our water quality is like. Hey, Cody, son, welcome to the stream. We know pretty much what our TDS is, and we know pretty much, this is what we're used to because it's ours. Hey, Punchy, how's Pam doing today? And I like the punchy paints. That's a nice alliteration with the two P's. We're fundamentally aware of our own situation as far as what our fish keeping water entails, but the people that we're asking the questions to are not, and theirs may be utterly different than ours. So if we ask them a question, immediately their mind goes to what their own situation is with their water parameters, and they find it difficult to perceive the problem that you're experiencing because they don't know what your parameters are. So there are a ton of really great presenters out there right now on YouTube. People that you can go to and ask complex questions to and get a complex and helpful answer. KG Cichlids, KG Tropicals, Fish Tropic, so many people. Corey, Lucas, Biggs, Dustin's out there, Rachel O'Leary's out there. There are so many people presenting on YouTube right now that you can ask very complex or even simple questions to get an answer to a problem that you are experiencing. But how you ask the question to them is going to really dictate what kind of answer you're going to get. So if you ask them a question that leaves out all the needed parameters, and you may not even realize that these parameters are needed. but they need to have an idea of what your TDS is, uh, what your water quality is like, where your water is coming from. Is it city water? Is it tap water? Is it well water? Are you running an RO unit? Terry's Tropical Tank says, I will answer every question with a well, it depends. And yes, that's kind of where I'm going with this, is that we need to, as fish keepers and fish fam, we need to brush up on our question asking skills so that Tom says, I think the way Joel does Discord is great for his followers. Yeah, that's another good way to go about this. You can leave a whole uh, encyclopedia on Discord for the person you're asking the question to read, so that they, yeah, Corvus. And I just listed a few of the people right off the top of my head, but there are tons of excellent fish keepers that are doing YouTube videos now. Some of them come and go, but more and more people that are real giants in this field are starting to dip their toe in the water of YouTube videos, starting to try to disseminate some of their vast knowledge on YouTube. And it's up to us as Fish Fam to be there to ask questions that give them a chance to answer in such a way that it helps not only us, but it helps other people that are watching that may not even realize that this is a question that they should have asked. And the way we go about asking the questions is indicative about what kind of answer we're going to get from these people that really know a great deal. Are you asking a question that is going to pique that presenter's interest? Hey, Lauren Ashley, welcome to the stream. Are you asking the kind of question that is going to allow that presenter to actually drop some knowledge on you, is going to get that person's head going? Hey, 44 Mag Guy, Fishing More, welcome to the stream. Are you asking the kind of question that will make that person that's presenting think about this question and come up with an answer that may surprise you, an answer that may shed some real light on the whole hobby, shed some light on what it means to be an advanced fish keeper? Are you feeding this person a softball so that they can knock it out of the park? Or are you throwing them such a hard curve that they're probably going to swing and miss at your question? And I'm not saying that you need to serve up easy questions for people to answer. What I'm saying is that we need to think about the questions that we are asking these advanced presenters so that we can crack open some of that treasure chest of knowledge that they have. Because unless we as questioners ask the kind of questions that really open up their ability to wax poetic about what they're talking about, something that they've spent their whole life doing, something that they have gained real expertise in, unless we give them the opening where some of that expertise can pour out on us, then we're never going to find that. We're just going to find rote answers that don't really go anywhere in the sense of what are you going to put in, what would you put in a 5-gallon tank. It's not normally going to cause a really excellent presenter to give you some real insights into how our hobby actually works in real time. You've got to you've got to try to think more globally when you ask a question. Yes, you've got a problem with a fish in your tank and you can't figure out how to solve that problem. So you're asking someone hoping that they can give you a magic bullet to solve your problem, and then you're going to go away happy. But are you offering that presenter enough information to give you a really good piece of advice? And are you offering them a question that allows them to, once they've given you your magic bullet, to talk to the rest of the people in the chat about what this topic brings up in their mind, what their experience of this topic is? We're asking a question and we want a 3-word answer, and that's going to solve our problem. But all of the other people in the chat who are on varying levels of skill, they need a question answered that is going to up their game. Regardless of where their skill level is, they need that expert to give them a little piece of experience, of intelligence, of looking at a problem from outside of the box, something that is going to turn it into a dissertation, if you will, on how an expert, someone that has great experience in this hobby, views this kind of situation from the benefit of their experience, from the benefit of the experts that they have talked to, from the benefit of the people that have mentored them through their early stages of the hobby, the people whose knees they learned at, the people who were giants in the field when they were young and just beginning in the hobby. And for that knowledge to get passed down to the people that are in this day and age of the hobby, whatever their ages, whatever their skill levels are, you need to think about all that when you're asking a question. Ask a question that, one, solves your problem, that has all the information in it that that person needs to give you a decent answer to your question, and hopefully gives you a new way to look at your problem so that you can begin to do a series of different things that are well advised to get to the bottom of your problem, or to figure out who to go talk to get to the bottom of your own problem. But also couch your question in such a way that it piques the interest of the presenter so that they are willing to talk about how they learned how to deal with this kind of problem, what other people have taught them about this kind of problem, how they saw these kinds of problems get solved long ago, and maybe their information is so far back that it doesn't really pertain to all of the bells and whistles that we have available to us right now. But the truth is that even those old solutions to problems can offer us insight into the mind of the fish keeper that came up with that way of solving that problem. And it can teach us as fish keepers how to think about the problems that we are solving. It's like talking talking about ick. You know, there are a myriad of ways to solve the problem of ick. And there are lots of different kinds of ick, or it is probable that there are several different kinds of ick. You can get the ick that just comes up from stress, from you taking a fish and either it being shipped to you or it being transported by you home, and then you put it into your tank after some amount of acclimation to your water parameters. And sometimes when that happens, you will get tiny specks of ick on these fish. And it's like stress ick. It's like, okay, they've been stressed with this transportation or this shipping, or they got stuck in the mail and they had to wait an extra day and they sat on a cold floor in a mail depot somewhere, and the heating thing and the heat pad and the box ran out and they got cold, and then you brought them into your house and they warmed back up again, and you put them in the tank and they warmed up even more to get used to that water, and then you dumped them out and you put a little bit of your tank water in the 5-gallon bucket with them. All those things can cause what a lot of people, and this is not proven knowledge, but I think most people, if you talk to them that have been keeping fish for a long time, have experienced stress ick as opposed to a heavy dose of ick that they get when they're really sick. And the ways you would go about curing either stress ick or heavy regular ick are different. But instead of us as fish keepers thinking, oh, I've got ick in my tank, the only answer is to reach out and grab a bottle of Ick-X or one of the mini ick cures that there are out there and dumping it in my tank. There are lots of different ways that you can go about solving the problem that ick presents. But you need to understand what ick is, how it happens, what its life cycle is, how it behaves in differing temperatures of water. So ick has a regular life cycle at about 75 to 78 degrees, where it takes it so many days to hatch out from the little ick white dots that we see on the fish's body, and then it goes into a free swimming stage, and it will swim around in your fish tank for a certain period of time, and in that period of time it must reinfect another fish or the same fish, or it will die. So immediately, if you think about that, you can use that creature's life cycle against it when you are trying to solve the problem of ick. And there are a lot of ways that you could go about that. One way is to increase the temperature in that tank. And what you're doing when you increase that temperature is that you're speeding up that ick's life cycle. So when it's in the free swimming stage, it will have to hurry to reinfect another fish before its life cycle spins out, because the water's really hot now and its life cycle is really fast and short. So a lot of people raise the temperature in their tanks, and a certain percentage of that free swimming ick will never reinfect another fish and die in the free swimming stage, just because of how quickly its life cycle has sped up. Now, of course, if you're keeping your fish at 75 degrees and you raise the temperature to 82, you're putting a lot of stress on your fish as well. So a lot of people compound this treatment method by adding salt to the water. That salt is slightly effective in blocking ick. It's slightly effective in making ick uncomfortable enough where it will not reinfect like it normally would. It swims around in that salt water and doesn't like it, and it's too busy not liking the salt water and having to hurry because the temperature is so high, and that sometimes will kill ick just on its own. But there's lots of different ways to think about this problem. And if you understand that each day that there is going to be a certain amount of the cysts of ick that are on your fish's body that are going to hatch out free swimming stage life cycle part of the ick life cycle, then it is possible that you could take 7 5-gallon tanks and set them up in a row and fill them with clean tank water and put an air bubbler in each one of them. And you could take 10 tetras that all have ick and drop them in that first tank and leave them in there for 24 hours. Now, in that 24 hours, a certain amount of the free swimming stage ick life cycle part is going to hatch out and be free swimming in that tank. Hey, Fish Tropic, welcome to the stream, man. So then after 24 hours, you dip all those fish out and put them into the next tank. Well, what happens in this tank number 1, those free swimming stage ick life cycle part, there are no fish to reinfect. So they swim around in that tank and die. Now, 7 days is a really good amount of time to be sure that none of those free swimming stage icks survive. So you put those fish in the second tank for 24 hours. More free swimming stage ick life cycle hatches out and is swimming in that tank. 24 hours later, you dip all those tetras out and put them into the next tank. And that tank has no free swimming stage ick in it. And now you've got 2 tanks with free swimming stage ick in them, but that ick has nothing to reinfect. So it is going to die. It will no longer be there. By the time you run through the first week, and come back and put those fish in that first tank again after 7 days, you can be darn sure that there are no living, free swimming, ick life cycle stage creatures in that first tank. And by the time you get to the seventh tank on the second week, there will no longer be any ick alive on any of those fish because it will not have been able to reinfect. In 2 weeks' time, if they do not get reinfected, they will not have ick anymore. And you have used that creature's life cycle, your understanding of that creature's life cycle, to cure 15 tetras completely of ick without spending a dime on medication, just because you understood what their life cycle was like and used this methodology to treat them. That is thinking outside the box. That is understanding a problem deeply enough, understanding the life cycle of an infectious creature deeply enough to use its methodology against it. You have literally caused a creature to not be able to reinfect fish because when they're free swimming, there are no more fish in the tank with them. The tank is empty of anything for them to reinfect. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about thinking outside the box. Every problem that you will face as a fish keeper has an answer like this that is skill, knowledge, experience-based, that can solve your issue. But how are you going to get the expert that's doing the live stream that you are listening to give you that answer? If you don't give them enough information, then the answer they're probably going to give you is, well, you need to go buy some ick eggs. You're not going to pique their interest about the topic enough for them to really get down and explain to you what the life cycle is, how it can be used to your advantage as a fish keeper, how your understanding of what this creature does and how it lives and how it infects your fish can be used against it. They're just going to say, well, turn your tank temperature up to 82, add a quarter cup of salt, and watch them for 2 weeks. If in another week, if they're still as badly infected, add some salt. Or leave everything just like it is, throw some ick-X in, and change the water in 2 days, and throw some ick-X in again. You know, you're not going to get the kind of answer that is going to up your game as a fish keeper from someone who you have given such a poorly worded question to that they don't feel engaged in any way to explain to you and the other people in that stream something that is really going to drop a piece of intense knowledge on you, that's going to give you the kind of insight that you can turn and use when you face other problems as a fish keeper. These people are not going to be out there forever. They're not always going to be there for you to ask questions to. You need to gain, and everyone in the fish fam needs to gain and absorb as much insight from these people while they're there. And the way that happens is by asking them questions that cause them to open up that treasure chest of experience, of advice from giants in the field, advice from their mentors, how they learned, how they figured out a new way to deal with this situation that affects all of us as fish keepers. But some people have just managed to look at it differently enough, look at it with enough knowledge, look at it with enough understanding of what that problem really represents, so that they can give you an answer that will set you back in your chair, that will make you stop and think, that will make you turn off the stream and go look at your fish tank and think, oh my God, why didn't I ever see this before? Why was I never aware enough to catch what this person has obviously known for decades and decades, and I never grokked it. I never paid close enough attention. I never read enough information. I never had the benefit of a mentor that really understood how to teach me something about my hobby, about the problems that I'm experiencing. And that's the kind of questions that you need to ask Biggs when you're in his stream. You need to ask Biggs something that's going to make him stop for a second and think about the answer, and him thinking about the answer is going to make him remember advice that he learned 30 years ago from a giant in the hobby that he was studying from. When you're talking to Father Fish in a stream, you need to ask him the kind of well-worded questions that will open up his vast reservoir of experience and make him go down through his own list of how he learned, of where he learned, of how someone was able to show him the solution to this problem in such a way that he gained real knowledge about the hobby. So, yes, add all the variables, ask your question about your problem, but try to do it in such a way that allows the presenter to answer your question and try to solve your problem for you, and then have something to talk about afterwards about how Dr. Loisel showed them 35 years ago how to deal with this issue by doing X, Y, and Z, and sat them down and explained to them that this is what the problem really represents, that it's not what you think it is, it's not how you see it, it's something else entirely, and you need to use this kind of thinking to attack a problem like that. Then you have given everyone in the chat a tool, a weapon, another quiver in their arsenal that they can pull out when they are faced with a similar type of situation. That's how we as fish keepers that's how we as Fish Fam members should think about the questions that we pose to the people who are running the live stream. You know, I'm sure if you ask me a really complex question in an area that I have no real experience in an area where I've done very little reading, then I'm probably going to swing and miss at it. I'm either going to give you bad advice, or I'm going to say I really have no advice to offer here, or I'm going to say, hey, you need to go talk to this person about that because my experience of them says that they might really have an answer to give you. So there are going to be, hey, Dan Slee, welcome to the stream. There are going to be times when the perfect question is going to be asked of someone who can't answer the perfect question, who has nothing to give you on that area. And you just have to recognize that. You have to recognize that there will be times when you have come up with the perfect question that's going to give an expert a chance to really expound on their knowledge and teach you something about the hobby. But it's going to happen that they've got nothing to offer in that area. So recognize that even the perfect question may not cause this to happen. But it's more likely to cause it to happen than a poorly worded question that leaves out pertinent information that makes the presenter just scratch their head and say, why did you even ask that question to me? Because you gave me no way to answer it. You gave me nothing to talk about afterwards. You're basically saying all these other people. Hey Amber, welcome to the stream. No, you didn't miss the fun. I'm still ranting. My experience of Fish Fam members asking questions of Fish Fam presenters, giants in the field, is that the questions are not well thought out. The questions do not leave open for expounding on really important information by the presenter. If they, maybe they just got done talking to Lee Finley about this kind of problem with catfish, and they can say, wow, what a great question, and you're not going to believe my answer because I just got done talking to an expert in this field, and this is what he told me. And they will try to answer your question, but they will also give you so much more, so much that is more important than the answer to your question. So when, as a good Fish Fam member, you are asking questions of presenters, please try to add all the pertinent information so that presenter has a good clue about how to answer your question. They may have to ask you another question, but try to give them enough information that they can kind of get an idea of what's going on and try to give you an answer, but also try to ask a question that opens a doorway for them to teach the rest of the people in the chat something really valuable, something really important, something that is more than the sum of the answer for the other people that are listening. All right, I'm done with my rant. It's just been my experience in the last couple of weeks that we as Fish Fam are not really asking well thought out questions. We're not really, it's like what we're doing is we're in it for ourselves. We're just there to have fun. We're not really trying to make use of this person's expertise, areas of our field that he or she is really up to speed on? And Dan says, a great question adds a lot to a stream. One that isn't so great sidetracks it and stymies it. Look, the only stupid question is the one that never gets asked. Always ask. If you've got a question, always ask. But think about the question before you ask it. Try to point the presenter in a direction where they can spend 40 minutes, the rest of the stream, just giving you information that adds to your understanding of what that question asked. So we ask a question about my fish have ick. The way you ask that question will have an effect on how much information that you get out of that presenter. Now, maybe the presenter's in a bad mood and doesn't want to spend 40 minutes talking to just you about your stupid ick problem. I mean, you got to understand that we're human beings. We're all human beings. We're all going to have bad days and good days, and it may be a bad stream or a good stream, and you may not get very far with the question that you ask. They may answer it and move on looking for a more interesting question to answer or trying to see. Yeah, I really think that we as Fish Fam are not appreciative enough of what we have before us when someone that's been in the hobby as a giant or an expert or a highly knowledgeable individual, that they have so much to offer us as presenters, and that we should not even begin to ask them questions that are dead ends. Don't ask a dead end question. Ask every question that you have. But try as a member of an audience of other people that also love this hobby and are following this hobby, try to ask questions that are open-ended enough so that your presenter can give you the benefit of their extra knowledge on this question, of their insight, of how they thought about it, how they dealt with it, what the people that they learned from taught them. Those are the kinds of things that we need to start drawing out of the people that we've got available for us to view these days on YouTube. It's not always going to be there for us. It's a lot of these people are advanced in age, and they're not going to be around forever anymore. So, while the YouTube videos that they have done may live on until the end of YouTube, the ability of us to ask, and it doesn't even have to be advanced questions. Sometimes the most simple question is the direct route to them being able to really expound in whatever way they choose, but in whatever way they understand will help us. Most of these people desperately want to help us. Nothing will make them feel better than to answer a question or talk for an extended period of time about a question in such a way that they really understand that many of the people that listened to their presentation got it, that they are going to go home, i.e., if they were at some talk, most of us are home, uh, they are going to go to their fish tank with a newfound understanding of what it means to be a hobbyist, what it means to be a fish keeper, what it means to really understand what's going on. Nisi says that's what I was going to say. Simple questions help answer bigger questions. Some people don't remember how important testing the water is to the hobby. Yeah, you're right, Nisi. Um, you know, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Nisi. Um, my wife is still suffering. Um, she, they did a biopsy on some lymph nodes, and they came back with the result that the piece of material they got off of the biopsy wasn't big enough for them to get any kind of result from. So we're back at square one, and my wife, although she's home now, she's still in as much pain as she was before and still suffering. So we're really, really at a loss. Terry's Tropical Tank says 35 years in the hobby and I'm still not sure what's going on all the time. Terry, this hobby is one of the few hobbies in the world where it will continue to stretch out and deepen underneath you as you go along. You think you've gotten to the bottom of it, and all of a sudden you figure out it's several miles deeper than you thought it was, and it's running out in front of you as fast as you can go, and you're never going to catch the end of it. It's an amazing hobby. You know, Ein's called this a pastime. You know, it's a pastime to keep fish alive in glass tanks. But it's way more than that. It is science. It is joy and wonder in a tank. You can literally come home from work in a huge amount of stress and sit down in front of a fish tank and watch those fish go about their lives, swimming back and forth in the tank, trying to find food to eat, fighting with the other denizens in the tank, trying to breed, trying to care for their fry, trying to lay or scatter their eggs. It will drop your blood pressure by many, many, many numbers just to sit there and watch them. And if that doesn't work, Tom says we've been trying to get African dwarf frogs past tadpoles. They live about 14 days. High pH, 330 TDS. Hey, Haley. Have fun at the auction. Give us some good video. I've never bred African dwarf frogs. I've kept them. I seem to remember them living for quite a while. This was in the middle 70s that I was keeping them, and I just kept them because I was freaked out when I first saw them in a fish store and bought some, but I never got them to breed, and I never got fry. Um, Living 14 days sounds like some kind of water parameter to me, or as Terry's saying, it might be a food issue. It might be that they are not getting enough food, or that they are getting food that is harming them in some way. And I do not know, because this is not an area that I have any amount of expertise in. I've done some reading on them, but I don't really know. I don't really remember anything about. I would probably recommend looking at Tropical Fish Hobbyist, because there are probably articles in Tropical Fish Hobbyist of people keeping them alive and raising them, and they may drop a little hint about how they did it. You know, a lot of people don't want to tell you how they did something that's really hard, because then you're going to do it and you're going to be selling the same thing that they are, and they don't want to lose that advantage. So sometimes it takes a while for real knowledge in that area to come out. You might ask Biggs on this. You might ask Lucas. Lucas may have some experience with dwarf African frogs. I know he's kept a lot of different kinds of things. Bob Steenfot might be able to give you some real advice. Bob keeps a lot of herps and reps. Corey might have a good understanding of this problem. I really, you got me. You asked a good question and you gave me all the parameters, but unfortunately you asked someone that doesn't really. Yeah, I'd ask Biggs. If Biggs can't give you an answer, he probably. Bob Kaler's telling you consistent 14 days sounds like an incubation period for a parasite, virus, or other infection, and that's a good point, Bob. I just really don't know. And Terry's Tropical Tank says, initially the small frogs should be fed microscopic protozoans if you want them to survive. And my best answer about microscopic protozoans is to get a baby food jar or a jelly jar and green water. Terry's talking about exactly where I'm going. Drop a piece of lettuce in that water, sit it on a window ledge where the sun hits it, and let that water turn green. Green water is a breeding ground and a great place for protozoans, for amoebas, for rotifers, for a lot of things. Leaf litter. Tried green water too, and it didn't help, huh, Tom? Okay, then my other thing that I am thinking about is a lot of fry don't survive because in the wild they are in such a place that they don't need to move more than a couple of inches to find exactly what they need to eat. So they are in a situation where all of their energy goes into growing, and none of their energy goes into trying to find food to survive. You know, we always say, "Oh, it's great. Look, my wrigglers are going to the top of the tank." Actually, that's a bad thing because those wrigglers are wasting their energy. It could be that they are spending so much of their energy trying to find food that they are dying because they've wasted that really good for water quality, harder to keep food in front of them. Yeah. Well, in that case, I might recommend pulling them out and putting them in a little tiny Tupperware. Um, I, you might get a better survival rate in a little half a gallon hang-on tank box with a bubbler in it that doesn't create a lot of water flow, and the food will be all around them. You know, that guy that I ran into on Tropical Fish Hobbyist Forum that was talking about the way that that tetras will survive the best fry is if they have the underside of a flat surface without a lot of water flow, for them to, like putting a piece of glass on half-inch washers off the bottom of the tank, so that they've got a surface that they can go up to and hang on that surface and not do a lot of swimming around to find something. Tom says tried that too. Terry's offering a solution of either bring the soup to the fry or put the fry in the soup. Hey, Aquatic Nest, welcome to the stream. Hey, Big J's Fish Keepers, I didn't welcome you either. I was busy trying to answer this question. Anyway, this guy in Yugoslavia or someplace figured out that if he gave those Tetra Fry a piece of glass, and you can imagine this in the wild, there's not going to be a piece of glass. But there will be a leaf or there will be a rock surface that they can get to easily from the bottom and hang there in a slight current and easily get to their food source and easily get back to that place where they're not expending any of their energy on anything other than just growing the development of their organs and that sort of thing. Wow. You guys let me rant away for most of the hour. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. I think we've got some company. I heard them come in. I'm going to go try to be a social being, even though I'm not, even though mostly I'm an antisocial being. I hope you guys have a good week. I hope you have good luck with your fish. I hope that you will think a little bit about the posit I made, that we as Fish Fam need to think about the questions that we ask. No worries, Aquatic Nest. Welcome, and thank you for coming. Bob, we have no new information. The biopsy that they tortured her with produced no information. And now she has to go Monday or Tuesday to get some kind of CPAP screening where they feed her sucrose and take scans of her whole body, and any kind of cancer will light up as a bright light to see if there's any cancer anywhere in her body. So that's where we are now. She still hurts, she's still suffering, and I'm not a happy camper. But that's what the witch doctors are saying this week. All right, guys, good luck with your fish. I hope you gleaned some useful information out of this live stream. Otherwise, you wasted all your valuable time being here with me. Thank you, Dan Slee. Thank you, everyone, for keeping my poor dear wife in your thoughts. All right, you guys have a good week. Hey, Candy. I'm out.